So I started climbing when I was 15, and after exploring the hills a little bit, I went to a crag called Dumbarton Rock, and I went there because I could get the train from my mum's house in 20 minutes, and there was lots of boulders below a big face, and on the face had the hardest routes in Scotland at the time. So it was a brilliant place for me to learn to rock climb. And I went there all the time, and actually I skipped a lot of school, and my school almost threw me out. I guess when you're a young guy, you're 15, 16, and you're saying I'm really serious about this climbing, and the people you're explaining to just don't understand what it is or what you're trying to do. So I don't blame them for not understanding that I was so keen on climbing. It's okay. A lot of people ask me like how I managed to do all the disciplines to quite a high grade, and I think there's two parts to the answer. One is that in Scotland it's just normal to be an all-round climber because the weather is so unpredictable, so you just have to do what the weather dictates, and so sometimes you end up sport climbing. Usually you sport climb on overhanging cliffs to escape the rain because there's so much rain. And sometimes if it's really cold weather, it's too cold to climb with a rope and belay, so you just boulder, and sometimes it's best to just go ice climbing, and there's so much trad, so we do all of those styles. But the way I really do it is I'm a specialist climber for a few months, so for 3 or 4 months I'm sport climbing, and then I try to do a hard project, and then once I do that it's in another season and I'll boulder for a good few months, and then hopefully build up to a hard climb. And so I'm a specialist in different times. I studied sports science at university for a long time, and I also observed other good climbers to try and learn for my own climbing how to climb harder. And from my study, I could see that everyone was concentrating, or many athletes in different sports are concentrating on the small details of like exactly how to tweak the physical training and make small changes. But when you're a coach and you're standing back and you can see what's holding these athletes back from making that little step forward, it's more general. It's more about something in their personality or their habits, the way they choose to do things, or the people they spend time training with, or the place that they live and the places they climb, for example. These are normally the things that hold climbers back, and so in changing these habits they can make the step forward. When I started climbing, I used to cut holes in the bark of the tree in my garden in my mum's house, and every time I went into the kitchen I'd run outside and do one problem, and then come back inside and have some food. And so maybe in the day I would do 20 or 30 problems. I would just run out all the time, every day, and so I got strong. And so like getting into the right habits, or climbing with the right people, or practicing falling, all these habits make a difference. So when I decided eventually to write a book about training, and I took this standpoint of the habits or the mistakes that climbers make. So my book was 9 out of 10 climbers make the same mistakes. Yeah. So last year I climbed this route called the Long Holt route. It's a very unusual climb. It's a big wall, but it's a sea cliff. So you climb straight out of the sea. You have to climb down to the bottom and then start by the sea, and then there's a big overhanging cliff for 400 metres. On the lower part the rock is really soft. The climbing is quite dangerous, very little protection, and on the last pitch it's 8B plus climbing. So the whole route is a really hard route for me. But it's very unusual because it's really remote, but the biggest thing that's unusual about it is it's infested by thousands of birds. So when you're doing like a really dangerous climb, in the moment of the actual climb, when you're actually doing it, you think about almost nothing apart from the next move and how all the movement is going, and if you're climbing well, and just on that. All the preparation, all dealing with all the fear, all has to happen before you start, before you even leave the ground. And usually for the hardest climbs, it happens weeks before you're actually climbing it, because you're practicing the climb, making attempts, and then you go away and you're thinking about it all the time when you're in bed or you're walking down the street or something, and your mind is thinking and going through all the scenarios and how you're going to feel, everything about how you're going to feel, and you're dealing with the fear, and you're dealing with the unknowns, and you're breaking down the unknowns bit by bit, how you're going to react, and what you're going to do if this happens or that happens, whether it's something practical on the rock or whether it's in your mind where you think, what if I get to that move and I start to panic, or what if I get to that move and I think, I don't really want to be here, this is not worth it. And if you deal with all those things in advance, by the time you get to the start of the climb, then there is nothing left to deal with. The only thing left is to do the moves all the way to the top. And so that's what you do, you switch off your brain and you just climb, and that's it.